Everybody, welcome back to the Flipping Junkie podcast, episode 175. All right, so I'm in my car today, so the sound might be a little bit different, but I want to talk about, this is a real quick episode too, because I just wanted to talk about, my getting back into this house buying and, that excitement. Excuse me, I just had lunch too, but anyway, that excitement, from, the initial, I'm going to get back in this business, start buying houses and all of that, has slowly kind of died down a little bit. And I was trying to figure out why, what's going on? Why am I not super pumped right now? I've done some marketing and even put a deal under contract last week. Super exciting for that. It's been a while since I personally myself put a house under contract. So that was a lot of fun and super glad to be doing that. But I was trying to figure out why, that excitement wasn't fully there. And I felt really, when I looked at it, it was kind of like I'm kind of overwhelmed. And it was interesting because I've been in this business since 2003, and I've done this before. So where's the overwhelm coming from? What is the thing? And it's like, well, there's so many options, right? And it's almost like when getting started in this business, I was like, well, could flip houses, could wholesale, could owner finance, all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of different things, a lot of different strategies. And there was no clear path on what I wanted to do, right? What is the focus here? It's just if the goal is just to buy houses, what am I doing day to day, random stuff? There should be some more organization to this. And so I was just looking at that and thinking, okay, well what's really needed right here? What's needed right now? I'm always preaching taking action, and it's like, here I am on the other side of that with my own almost like analysis paralysis, right? Even after all these years. And it's kind of crazy. So I was looking at, okay, well, what am I trying to accomplish in general? It's not just buy houses, but buy houses why? And having that focus could help me figure out, what is the financial goal, right? So I'm looking for, right now, I'm not looking to buy, fix up and retail and build chunks of cash. I'm looking for more long-term assets. So my goal is more of that monthly income, right? So I want rentals or even create notes and things like that. And so if I work this, reverse engineer it from the goal of finding that monthly revenue goal, then I can look at, okay, what is it going to take to generate that kind of income per month, right? What is the typical property, deal going to get me per month? So it'll tell me how many deals I need, right? And then from there, how many leads do I need to get each deal? And I can kind of reverse engineer this back to how many leads I'm needing to generate and figure out how quick I want to do that, right? So the goal has to be definable, measurable, with a time period, all that kind of stuff. So if I can figure out how long I want it to take to get to X amount of dollars per month, then I can figure out what it's going to take to do that. And then I can look at what marketing methods I want to do to focus on that. And if I'm doing long-term stuff, the rental properties I want are on the cheaper end with decent rents. Okay, not war zone stuff, but also not super nice neighborhood kind of stuff. And so I can kind of focus of where I'm going to focus that marketing efforts, and that'll also dictate what marketing I do to get those kind of deals. So now I have that clear goal in mind. I think this is also from the Topo Chicos that I'm addicted to and drinking a ton of. So that's why I'm burping right here on the podcast for you guys. Hopefully that's not annoying. But Topo Chico's so good though, and it's so hot already in Texas. So doing that is giving me this clear path, right? So that I feel like the action I take is a measure of progress along the path I've already decided, right? Because it can be a somewhat subtle thing to feel like, well, figure out how to flip houses. I can learn all that kind of stuff, and then I can just try to get a deal. But I think having that sort of a goal of what you're trying to achieve, even if it is flip houses, where do you want to be? Is this a revenue goal that you want to generate? And then kind of reverse engineering all the way back so that you then can take action towards, that very specific goal. Which direction you're headed in. That could change over time, but at least you got something to go with. Now, once you do that, it's not enough just to say, okay, well, I'm going to head down this path. I'm going to do marketing in this area to try to generate this number of leads. You've got to measure this, right? You got to have some system to measure the progress towards the goal. Okay, and like I spoke about a minute ago, when I'm reverse engineering that, I'm looking at how many deals do I need to get to average, average deal making this month per month, how many deals do I need? So if I want to get $10,000 a month, how many, and I'm averaging about $1,000 a month per property, then I need to get 10 properties, right? And I might try to do that in a year, I might not, but if I do that, then I know, okay, I've got to do this many, and I'm assuming that it's going to take me 10 leads to get each deal. So now I'm looking at 100 qualified leads to then get those 10 deals, netting me about 10,000 per month. Not netting, but generating that much, 10,000 per month. Of course, you got like the debt service and all that kind of stuff that you might want to calculate into this, but I'm just giving you an idea. But I'm making some assumptions there, and it's okay to make those assumptions because I'm going to measure against that with reality, with what's actually happening. Okay, so now I've got to have a system for tracking and measuring, because what is not measured cannot be managed, right? In our business, we need to manage. It's not some willy-nilly, today I feel like marketing, today I don't. It's not like that. You have to measure it. And the best thing that I found from that is from my good friend Andy McFarlane had given me a book called Traction. Gino Wickman, look it up if you don't have that already. Get Traction. Presents the entrepreneur operating system and basically kind of shows you how to have those goals, those KPIs, how to track them, and then have weekly meetings to see how well you're doing in the progress every week over week towards those numbers, right? So with my estimates, I can have those sort of as a goal, and then I can track these KPIs, right? Like how much I'm spending on the marketing, how many leads were generated, how many of those turned into deals, and then how much I was making on those deals, and I have my goals to measure against, and I can see how it's trending, right? In the beginning, those numbers probably are not going to look all that great, but they're going to improve, and I'm going to know where I need to focus based on what needs the most improvement, right? So, if the marketing stinks, I will know, and not just because I feel like it might stink, because I know, I looked at the numbers, I've tracked the numbers, right? And, that book spells that out wonderfully, that Traction book. And so as I'm getting back into this, I'm super excited now because I'm saying, okay, well, here's the goal, and that goal excites me. I can put something up on my whiteboard that says this much per month, and as I get those, I can knock those out and feel like I'm really working towards that goal. And it's not going to be some crazy goal that would take me 10 years to achieve. I want to set a goal for the year, something realistic, something that's going to motivate me, and do it that way. And, I got to thinking about this whole lead to deal ratio thing, and I was looking at, in the book Flipping Houses Exposed that I wrote, there was a blog post from years ago when I was documenting all the leads that I was generating, the deals I was doing, and it was 34 weeks, and I did 495 leads that I presented in that Flipping Houses Exposed book, and it was on my blog, on FlippingJunkie blog. And looking at those numbers, it was like cool that I generated that many leads, but the fact that I only did like 11 deals, I think it was 11 or 13 deals from that many leads was kind of horrible, right? Like that's a place that I know now, after more experience, can be improved drastically, and we did, and I will be working and focusing on that too this time around. And so I'm super excited. If you haven't read Flipping Houses Exposed, be sure to check that out. The blog posts are on my blog, but if you want to get it in book format, just look for Flipping Houses Exposed on Amazon. But it's a good way to see how this really is a numbers game, and how you can kind of reverse engineer that and track like how many leads you're getting and all that kind of stuff. But I'm super excited because I feel like I'm not really saying I'm starting from nothing in this business, starting from never having done it. I've done all of this. So it's more of what my plan is I really just want deal consistency. And I'm going to look at this like, I've got the software company and my other assets from, previous years of real estate investing and all that kind of stuff. But I want to look at this business, this buying houses business again, as sort of my, even though it's not necessary, I want to see it this way as my ticket to like leaving my full-time job. I'm not going to leave the software job. I love it. But I want to have it that way because it sort of mimics where a lot of listeners out there, maybe you're listening to this thinking, okay, I've done a deal or two, but I need deal consistency and I really want to go full-time, right? Because I'm doing this part-time right now too, because the software company is taking a lot of my time. And so, this is a part-time thing for me. And so that's kind of like, I set this goal for X amount of monthly revenue from the houses, as like my ticket to going full-time, just to mirror sort of maybe where a lot of you out there listening are also, where you're wanting that deal consistency, you're wanting to go full-time, be your own boss. And so that way, as I'm, sharing information on the podcast, it's relevant to that, right? It's relevant to that journey. I'm on that journey too, alongside of you. And, I want you to follow along. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, go ahead and subscribe so you can follow along. And I've got some news regarding all of this I'll be sharing pretty soon. But it's going to get interesting, because this whole idea of like doing things like the random marketing to buy houses, but no intention behind it, no sort of goal or path laid out enough to go down, doesn't feel good. And I feel like, if I'm being honest, a lot of the time that I've done marketing for, the software for Flip Pilot, Lead Propeller, and this podcast itself, a lot of times getting interviews, doing interviews for the podcast, I love the sharing of the information, I love the guest, and I love all the information that they share. But a lot of times I just end up feeling like it's so disjointed, right? It's not, it's not like a week-to-week progression. It's kind of like this just disjointed information. And, and I do get to the point where it's like I need to have the podcast be consistent. And it's like this rush to get another podcast episode, but there's not a real good, clear path or plan for these episodes, right? And it just doesn't feel right. Like I want a guided plan for this, okay? So what I'm saying is basically, and you gotta hold me to this because I do get sidetracked and focused and just drop the phone there. So yeah, and all that kind of stuff. But I want to put more intention and direction behind all of this, and I'm excited to be mapping that out right now and really figuring that out. And as a part of that, as part of this house buying, but that's all going to tie in all together alongside of the flipping stuff, so that there's not too many directions. I've got one direction, and all of these things lead to that one direction, but I'm not pulled in different directions, because everything is like, aids in the other thing. And I'm excited to be documenting all those things. So anyway, I'm going to change some things up. I've been talking about it a little bit, but I needed to really clarify this plan, which I'm still doing a little bit. But over the next coming weeks, you're sure to hear something from me about where all this is going. So super excited. And and if you're in that place where you've maybe done a deal or two or three or four or five, but you haven't gotten that deal consistency, you haven't been able to go full time yet, and you really want to be your own boss and do what you want to do when you want to do it and all that kind of stuff, follow along, because this kind of letting some things out here already, but this is this is what I want to be sharing, is that process of doing that. And it's not just figuring out the goal and doing the marketing. It's all the other, what to look at in your business and how to improve that lead to deal ratio, right? Because when I looked at Flipping Houses Exposed and 495 leads, only producing 11 to 13 deals, that sucked, right? So over the coming weeks, I want to be looking at, as I'm getting more leads into this house buying, what's going to make that lead to deal ratio shrink to where I can get, from, maybe every 10, leads would be a deal, something like that, and maybe even shrink it down even below that. But what are those things that I'm going to be looking at doing to do that, right? And then to get deal consistency, that's a big piece of it, but also the lead generation's got to be kind of consistent too. So we'll be talking about that as well. So super excited to have that plan, because it's really that goal of anybody, if you're just starting out in this business, that's great too, right? But if you're doing some marketing and want to get consistent, that's more where this focus I think is going to be. And I'm more excited about that and doing that and sharing those pieces, because I don't think it's really talked a lot about in respect to, like what the actual leads are coming in, looking at those numbers, right? Like sharing that kind of information. So anyway, hopefully that's clear. Hopefully it's not just a ramble in my car. What is it? Coffee and cars with comedians, or weird looking guys in coffee driving cars. But anyway, something like that. But no, I'm not going to be, maybe I will be driving around drinking coffee. I like doing that. So anyway, subscribe to the podcast. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you've got input or you just want to tell me I didn't understand a thing you said, you know, go to the Flipping Junkie Facebook group on Facebook, look for Flipping Junkie, and you know, ask to be included in that group, and we can talk there to get some clarification and stuff. So hopefully not too vague, because I didn't want to share the whole plan just yet, because I don't have the whole plan fully mapped out yet. But I'm super excited, wanted to share with you guys for this week. So hope you have a great week out there in the world, and I'll talk to you next time. Peace.